Welcome to Popping Collars, the podcast that lives at the intersection between religion and pop culture. I am your host. My name is Greg Knight. I'm in Palm Beach, Florida, and with me are my co-hosts, Betsy Gonzalez. Hey, Betsy.
Hey, Greg.
From Alexandria.
Hi, Greg.
And Liz Easton from Omaha, Nebraska. Hello, Liz.
Hey, Greg.
And special guest for this episode, making his Popping Collars debut from New York City, David Bryan. Hello, Dave.
Hello.
This is episode 26 of the 1,212th ranked podcast in the iTunes spirituality category. And our topic today is The Walking Dead. This is the hit television show on AMC that features a group of people surviving in a world where zombies have overrun the planet. So a quick question, Liz, and I want you to be honest. If the zombie apocalypse hit tomorrow, would you be a survivor or one of the Walking Dead, do you think?
I would not survive. And I tell people this all the time. Like, I'm not quick. I'm not sharp. Like, I went to Indonesia last year, and I told my friend that I went with, if there's a tsunami, just leave. You know?
Leave me behind.
Just leave me behind. Take care of yourself.
Don't drag me around with you.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let me drag you down. I'm reconciled with that. I really am. I tried to watch one episode, and it was so scary that I almost threw up, and I had to turn it off. So is this going to be our angle that Liz hasn't watched the show?
Right, yes. We're gonna just describe the show to Liz and see if we can make her throw up at some point during the
I watched, on Halloween, I was at a friend's house, and we watched just the first episode of American Horror Story Hotel. Oh, God, no. And I was like, where is your bathroom? Like, I need to know where the bathroom is. Like, it could happen at any moment. It was so disgusting.
And Betsy, I know you're a survivor.
I know it.
You probably have a katana hanging behind you right now, even as we speak, right?
Well, I have some wooden taekwondo practice swords, but no katana. But no, I mean I've tethered myself in marriage to someone who is priding himself on surviving. So, we used to play this game in seminary that if some biohazard thing broke out at Berkeley and suddenly it becomes infested with diseased young people, who at seminary would make it and who are we leaving behind?
Who
was on your list? I'm kind of amazed.
We had some people, I would take their kids, but I'm not taking the mom and dad because they love each other too much. Someone will get bit and someone will hide it. It would be really annoying. But we'll take their kids because their kids are fearless. They get to go.
That's true, and I got to tell you, Liz, I think we decided that we were going to leave you behind because it would be a waste of time to go back to the dorms. The dorms were.
I'll tell you, we felt that in the dorm.
Oh no! You knew that. We were heading for Tahoe and leaving you behind. You knew it.
On our own.
Sorry. No.
So I think that's what I sort of get from this show is if you say that you have what it takes to survive, then that means that you're really making some pretty horrible ethical decisions about who it is that's allowed in your group and who's not. It's almost kind of Darwinian. It's like, well, I can't go back to the dorms because those people are just going to drag me down. So I have to kind of surround myself with the biggest and the strongest in order to survive myself. Yeah, there's really no room for sort of gospel good Samaritan looking out for your neighbor in the world of The Walking Dead.
So is this a segue to where we can talk about how much Father Gabriel sucks? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because, really, he's supposed to be the moral compass of the show. He's an Episcopal priest, right?
He is. Another poor representation of Episcopal clergy. I'm telling you, Hollywood, I will come consult on your business.
Well, there's also different forms of knowledge, right? It's like someone like Daryl, who's a country kind of backwoods, hunter.
Meth head.
meth head. Yeah, exactly.
Former meth head.
Probably doesn't have value in today's society, but in a society that's completely collapsed, then that's the guy that you want next to your side. And that makes me wonder, like, so where, I mean, I keep coming back to the same question, and I'll probably say it like 30 times over the course of this, but like, where is the hope in this world? Because there's no room for hope, because hope's just going to get you killed.
I think the personal redemption that occurs with a lot of the characters is something to be hopeful about.
So a character like Daryl moves from being...
Daryl, who, you know, flies off the hinges early on and is basically a, you know, more or less a carbon copy of his racist brother Merle, maybe not as racist or openly racist. He's come a really long way, and, you know, it's just amazing to see how he, you know, he's the one who kind of keeps Rick in line sometimes with these moral decisions. You know, this person is kneeling in front of me. Do I shoot them or not? And Daryl is the one who's there to say, Rick, first of all, strength in numbers. Second of all, we shouldn't do that. You know, Merle as well. Like, what an amazing death Merle experienced. You know, basically chose to sacrifice himself for the good of the community that took him in after they should not have taken him in. And then, you know, the list goes on. Nicholas, even in the last just couple episodes, you know, brand new, and I really hated him. But then and I hate that he ended up doing what he did. We won't talk about. Even Nicholas experiences a redemption. You know, and then also Tara, who's on the outside of the fence with the governor, and then as soon as the sword chopping on Herschel's head gets taken off, she immediately like shuts down, and then she ends up being not only joining the community, ostensibly just to help Glenn get to Maggie, but then is eventually embraced by that community, especially Maggie. You know, who she was on the outside of with the governor, and they killed her father, and she still ends up embracing Tara once Tara comes back or to the other side. Also, you know, so that's just a few examples, but I think that there's a lot of hope in that, in the redemption factor.
Yeah, those are a lot of stories about people kind of turning their lives around. And it makes me think that, you know, at least for the people that I see regularly in my parish, working at my church, you know, it takes big events, it seems like, in life in order for people to kind of change their habits and to kind of do what it is that we say happens when we repent, right? This whole sort of 180-degree turn. I'm going to change the path that I'm on somehow. But there's like some horrible catalyst that leads to that, which can be good or bad, but it's something that shakes your world to its core. And it makes me wonder if in the world of The Walking Dead, like these are really people that get ignored through life, except for this horrible event, and now they get to turn around and kind of be who it was they were meant to be at some point.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think about that in terms of, you know, working at a boarding school or getting ready to have, you know, having kids graduate from here and going to college. Like that moment of you're a freshman at college and I can be anybody. You know, I can, if I don't know anybody here in particular, I can change my name. I could, you know, who am I? You know, I can totally transform. And we're looking at a group of people that have gone through this whole world transforming. And then it's kind of, who am I going to be? You know, and you watch, like I'll watch kids who come new to school here and it'll be like, I was the rock star, you know, academically. And then they run into something and it's like, oh crap, maybe I'm not. And I was the, you know, best one on my lacrosse team, and oh crap, maybe I'm not. And that challenge and that growth that comes, you know, I think the transformed character that I enjoy the most is Carol, and that ability that she has had to go from this battered woman to this loss of her child. So now she's, you know, battered woman, husband dead, kid gone, you know, and kind of what is she going to become? And it's a little frightening what she's become at times. She's so clear and so decisive and just direct in knowing what needs to be done and when to hide herself and when to expose herself. That I think that kind of transformation I agree with Dave. That offers hope.
I would love to think that I had it within me, and I guess sometimes I do, to make a big change just because I know it's good for me, or I know I ought to do it. But it seems like it's more when you're really in trouble. If you have nowhere else to go, that you actually turn around.
I mean, no, it's like food, right? Like, I mean, you can hear over and over again, like, oh, red meat's bad for you, it's going to give you cancer, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's an easy change that you can kind of make in your life. But think about how hard it is to make that change until you've had your quadruple bypass surgery. And then all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier to make the change because you've had the dramatic moment of sort of facing your own mortality and stuff like that.
Yeah, or quitting smoking or stopping drinking or leaving a relationship, all those things.
I wanted to ask you about Rick real fast. So Rick is our portal into the show. He's an ex-cop who gets shot on a job and wakes up in a coma, and all of a sudden the world has been turned upside down. The dead are back to life. That's kind of how we're introduced to the show. And so being a cop, being a law enforcement officer, he's kind of our... At first, anyway, for season 1, he's the moral center of the show. He's the leader. He's the born leader, because that's sort of the role that he had before all the stuff went down. But I'm wondering if, as the layers of Rick keep getting kind of stripped away, and as he keeps losing more and more kind of friends and family, you know, we had talked about this kind of people finding their redemption stories throughout the show. And I'm wondering if we're seeing in him just a downward spiral into madness a little bit. Dave, what's your take on Rick? Do you see him as redemptive at all, or is he going nowhere fast?
I think you might be onto something with that downward spiral. And I feel like I've seen it throughout the series. Every so often you see him having to contend with some new issue, and you can really see him just getting tired. And and obviously in season 3 he loses his mind for a while, and then he comes back, and then he seems to have it together. But I think you're right, as more people continue, his friends and his family, they all refer to each other as family, and as each of his family members get killed off, and then as he continues to contend with all these external forces like Terminus, cannibalism, and all this stuff, and the governor, like not only once but twice, and like his home in flames, and he's half dead and has to hobble away just with his son, and his daughter is gone, and it's like, where's the hope in that? So I can see him, I think you're right, kind of spiraling downward. Now, I wouldn't see him spiraling downward the way the folks at Terminus spiral downward, right? Because when they started out, it was a community, and it was sanctuary for all and community for all. And then we have this very, very, very short backstory about these thugs who show up, take over the community, and they figure out the only way that they can take the community back. I don't know if they, at that very moment, decided, we're just going to eat them, but that's what it devolved into. And then you have this cannibalism story, right?
Yeah, that part would have made you throw up.
Oh, man!
Do you turn your head at those points?
I have never actually watched The Walking Dead. I'm just like here.
And that's been the conversation into season 5, beginning of season 6. Was he out there too long, right? Were they all out there? But other people were out there as long as he was, and he just cannot contain. It's like this, you see people. I think that's where some of my interest in some of the other characters in the show is kind of coming from, because there's an element of me that's like, if Rick goes this week, I'm sorry, everybody. I don't know whether I would be that tore up about it. I think there's a part of him that makes things dangerous for other people, and I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like we have that conversation a lot. So, when we talk on the show about Walter White or about Jax Teller or something like that, it's like, yeah, ostensibly these are the stars of our story and stuff like that, but they're making everybody in the world's lives worse somehow. And I feel like Rick, while not kind of the anti-hero like those characters are, he is in some ways making everybody's life worse on that show.
But he's keeping them alive.
But he's keeping them alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure behind that as well. You know, like he's got all these people looking up to him. So like in season 3 where he wanders off and starts, you know, chasing after his invisible dead wife, you know, other people sort of kind of step up just by, you know, well, I guess I'm in charge now, you know, like, but they don't know what they're doing and they can't make those tough calls, I think, you know, like Rick can. So I think it shows, and it's interesting, you know, coming up on a presidential election year, how we see how, you know, having to make all these huge decisions can really start to wear you down as a person. And yet everybody expects you to be tough and to completely hold it together. And a lot of times you'll keep the appearance of keeping it together, but internally you're falling apart. And I think that might be what's been happening with Rick.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's trying to wrap your arms around the world. Like you can't hold it all together. You're just going to go crazy if you try to. You know, you said it yourself, Dave. If it's a family and Rick sees himself as the traditional head of the family, however that role kind of defines itself for him, you know, it's ultimately his responsibility to keep everybody alive and everybody thriving, and that's going to drive him crazy. Especially in that world.
You guys, now I know what it feels like to listen to popping collars when you don't have any exposure to the popping part.
I'm going to give you a foothold here, Liz.
Okay.
So this is one of those dystopian shows that we got criticized the last time we had one of these conversations because we kept going back and forth between the word dystopia and the word apocalypse. Right. And so I'm trying to stick with dystopia, but post-apocalyptic will sometimes come out of our mouths too. But of all these dystopian worlds that we experience, The Walking Dead is one. Hunger Games is certainly another major popular one. Are they about something that exists in our world today? Are they critiquing something about us? And if so, what is that? Our culture?
Yeah, do we feel like we're coming toward the end of something? Like we're an empire that's about to collapse? I mean, I think it's fascinating to imagine. I mean, in one way, we live in a world where we're so reliant on technologies, not only just to get through our life every day, but also to literally keep us alive. The idea of all of that being stripped away from us and like sort of being returned to a more primal human state, how many of us could actually make it? You know, probably not very many of us. So that might be like a big collective fear. But I wonder more about the empire part of it.
I think it's also the part that's appealing. Strip it away. You know, it's the folks
you get to start over.
Right. It's the folks who are like, oh man, you know what I really want to do is live in Maine and make jam, and you know, I mean, there's that part that's just kind of like, you know, this isn't real. You know, is this real? You know, that the kind of real life and that living more at the edge of life as these characters are riding that day in and day out. You know, that there's, you know, I'm not saying I'm yearning for a zombie apocalypse, but some people call it a tech Sabbath on Sundays, and I'm not going to do XYZ. I mean, there is this yearning for reality, authenticity, all those words that everybody's kind of using now, you know, what makes Daryl Dixon all dirty and whatever he is. Yes, former model, but, a hottie. He's like this guy who can get it done, you know, and it's like, oh, wow, you know, you look across the room at your significant other. Could they get it done? I don't know whether they could get it done, but that guy can get it done. And there's something appealing about that. But I think it's also, you know, that element of the family. I think it's also this kind of, the theology of the body. You know, that there are many members of the body, and that we've had the core, the torso, maybe the head and torso of the body. Our main kind of characters, but that we've had different people coming in and being a part of this family for a period of time and serving a purpose and leaving an imprint and then leaving. And to watch them, enter Alexandria and actually try to meld with another community, another body, that there's not a match in that. I mean, it's not even that they are enemies. It's just not meshing, that we've had episodes in season 6 where it's like, oh, this is the episode where we're going to kill off all those extra Alexandrians that we've only just met. Sorry, we're kind of over you. But I don't know, that there's this, they have these, each member has its own purpose, and even Carl, starting as a child, has now grown into his whatever kind of emo phase he's into. But, that it's, transformed through pudding into being this adult member who can, you stay and protect the baby. I got you. I can take care of people, that kind of.
I mean, it's a frontier story, really, at its core. I mean, it's like a Western. You're out in the middle of nowhere, and you don't know what's around the corner that could possibly attack you and threaten your family. And so you've got to kind of figure out how to get it done in order to make it to where the gold is in California.
Without eating each other.
Whereas I don't know if there is gold in the Walking Dead, though, and I guess that brings us back around to that hope question. Like, where are you going in this world? I mean, where ultimately is going to be a place that's safe?
No, okay, so here's my hope. And this is totally I think you engage with the show through your own kind of how you would hope you would be in this moment, right? Is that I have a weakness for movies and stories that are a group of people against all odds, whether it's The Walking Dead, whether it's another, zombie type situation, whether it's Space Camp, whether it's Twister, whatever. I have a soft spot, Star Wars, for any movie where it's this group of people who are battling against some kind of odds. And if they're underdogs, it's even better. Sure, great. But they're passionate and, and I just like a good story. So I just like rooting for this band of people and what's going to happen to them.
Greg, I want to go back to something that you said, where you said, is this show saying something about our culture and our society? Yes, it is. I think you're onto something there. I feel like everybody that I know, save a small percentage of people, everyone I know seems like really stressed out and really struggling. I know, with the whole 99%, 1% thing, that there's this huge financial imbalance, and a lot of people feel financial stress. And politically, our country is such a mess. Everyone on the left thinks that everyone on the right is crazy, and everyone on the right thinks everyone on the left is crazy. And how can we all be crazy? Maybe we are. And so maybe that's one of the things about this show that really draws people in, is just that precarious nature of existence. And I don't know, maybe it really has such popularity because maybe there's even just a subconscious part of a lot of Americans who really want to see it fall apart so that we can get that fresh start and go make jam in Maine, which...
Yeah, and I guess that's the frustrating piece for me, and it brings us back around to that part of the conversation that we were talking about before of this, why the drama? Why a zombie apocalypse, right? Why can't we make this course correction without the meteorite, about to threaten our planet? I guess I don't get it. It's we can hear science about climate change over and over and over again, but not make any changes until until the storm's heading right down our throat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
but you were just like you were saying about with the individual having to hit rock bottom. The alcoholic won't go get help until they hit rock bottom, or the smoker won't be able to quit smoking until they get lung cancer. That's the individual. That's the micro. This is the macro. It's happening on a macro level with the whole society. And the society is going to have to hit that rock bottom as well, I think, in order to be able to make that correction.
And I think you come up against something like this dramatic event that's affecting everybody, we're so siloed right now from each other. That when are you going to end up with this motley crew of people actually trying to connect with each other? Actually trying to find common ground with each other. And the only common ground they have is that they are currently surviving this horrendous event. That's it. And so how do we then connect with each other? And so, where are you going to find a, black woman with a sword, crazy cop with a couple of kids, the Asian
Racist
pizza guy, the guy with a cross, who drives a motorcycle, mullets. I mean, like, when are all these people going to hang out and be together? Never, in the way the world is now. But you throw everything up in the air, and these are suddenly people that need each other, especially people who think that they don't need each other. And then your point, Greg, about were these people invisible in their lives before? A few of them were visible and had visible jobs, but even Rick in his life as a cop, he was just a cop with his buddy and doing his thing. He wasn't the head of the police. He wasn't whatever. He was a guy. And so now it's like, okay, now actually here your skills are needed. Here's what you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think we hope for motley crews in our parishes because it just means that we're probably representing the body of Christ a little bit better.
Okay.
Are you going to watch the show now, Liz?
Well, so I watched the first episode and just like the first half of the first episode, and it was too much. Like it was.
Oh, there's that really gross zombie in the first episode.
And it was just too much.
Just close your eyes whenever the zombies are eating someone. So
I agree.
Well, maybe I'll try it. I'll try it.
And watch
Watch
the behind the scenes extras.
Okay.
Because that will actually allow you to see the zombies as actors and allows you to see some of the special effects, I think. And sometimes I'll be like, now when I watch, like, there's somebody eating somebody or somebody, you're like, oh, I know that's chicken and that's, I mean, like, you just know that it's all, what it is and that it's all if it being fake. You just
now you can be like, oh, that's jam that they made in Maine.
That's right, off the grid.
She said, "There's no point to stop it. Already went too far. Can feel the dragons breathing. Can hear the monsters roar. We will strike the seas now, even if we reach the end. Just tell the mate you bring us a bottle of rum." But I know that it won't be forevermore. Oh, I'll be gone. She said I'm alive, but I know that it won't be forevermore. Oh, I'll be gone.
Okay, so it's time for our Go in Pieces segment. I'm gonna flip the script on the Go in Pieces.
What?
I feel like we plug our stuff so much that people know how to get in touch with us. So
I agree.
So I was going to say that for our Go in Pieces segment, we can tell people what it is that we're currently watching or really into right now. Okay, Liz, what's something you're really into in the popular culture?
You all may have already seen this, but last night I watched that documentary about Glenn Campbell, the country music star who is now suffering from Alzheimer's, and he sort of recorded a final really beautiful album. It's just really, really touching. So watch that. It's on Netflix. It's streaming on Netflix. It's called Glenn Campbell, I'll Be Me, I think.
Dave, do you have a website you want to plug?
It's actually really easy to do it this way. Yeah, so in answer to your question about what am I into?
Yeah, what are you into? And then plug your website after that.
Walking Dead. I really am into Walking Dead, and I've been meaning to do some writing about it, so I'm really quite tickled that you invited me to participate in this, because I was thinking the Walking Dead theology project. But I also have a music project related to Grateful Dead, and you can find us on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in David Bryan and Friends, and you'll hear us doing some Grateful Dead music. And we have a big concert recording coming out. Got to make that plug.
Betsy, do you have a popular culture piece?
If you have any hydration left, the Roger Ebert documentary, Life Itself, which you can watch after the Glenn Campbell documentary, is also really good. He's just a really amazing writer. Like, I was watching the doc, and he was at Illinois at the same time my dad was, and, you know, I got my dad the book, like, right away. Like, you know, because it's based off his memoir. But the other thing that will not involve any tears, but will make you really hungry, is the Great British Baking Show that is on Netflix. It is so wonderful. I loved Food Network for a really long time. I have not watched it unless I was, like, around my family collectively, because I got sick of food competition shows where people would just throw in this twist, and now you have to do it wearing roller skates, and now you have to whatever. These are just straight up, like, they get to prep, like they know one of the challenges. There's always one challenge that's a skills challenge where they don't kind of know. But, I mean, they have themes like, this week's episode is bread. This week's episode is cake. Like, it's just straight up people cooking.
I'm really excited that my oldest daughter has been asking a lot of questions about Star Wars lately. And so I've been able to sort of introduce her to Chewbacca and Yoda. Those are the only two characters that she knows. But she thinks that they're hilarious, especially when I do my Yoda voice. So I'm hoping that I have a companion to go see the new movie with me when it comes out.
Oh, you going to take her?
I don't know. We'll see. It depends on if she's kind of into it.
Are you going to do the Yoda voice for us?
No.
I know your Yoda voice is a good voice.
And also, just a reminder, you can find this episode and all the episodes of Popping Collars at poppingcollarspodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on Twitter at Popping Collars or on the Facebook where you can like or friend us. And that is Popping Collars for this week. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Liz. And thank you, Dave, for coming on to talk. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Keep those collars popped.